You're listening to The Deep Dive, where AI voices break down big ideas. Every week, Nova and Echo guide you through the tools, trends, and thinking behind the AI revolution. No hype, no fluff, just smart conversations sparked by AI.
Imagine taking an idea rattling around in your head and turning it into, well, a working piece of software in minutes. Seriously.
Yeah, not weeks or months. Minutes.
Sometimes, without really writing much traditional code yourself. It sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
It does. But it's happening. And it's definitely starting to change how we build things.
That speed alone is enough to make anyone in software development sit up and pay attention.
Oh, absolutely. It's a potentially huge shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that whole rapid creation process, that's what we're diving into today. We're doing a deep dive into this thing people are calling vibe coding and the powerful AI prototyping tools making it all possible.
Right.
But we also want to zoom out a bit, connect this cutting-edge tech back to something really fundamental, really human, how our own intuition and rationality play a role in actually creating software.
Yeah, it's that interesting intersection, isn't it, where the super practical AI application meets the cognitive stuff behind how we create and solve problems.
Yeah, exactly. So to get a handle on all this, we've pulled together quite a few sources. We've got articles looking into specific AI prototyping tools pieces from places like Lenny's newsletter, DEV Community. We looked into vibe coding itself, how people are talking about it, drawing from sites like Silo's blog and scrum.org.
Okay.
We've got real-world examples, too, even potential earnings from lists like top 10 vibe coding projects that can make you real money.
Ah, the practical side. Good.
And crucially, we also brought in some academic research, a paper looking at intuition versus rationality in software design decisions. Found that on the Wuppertal Institute server.
So covering the what, the how, the actual impact, and then the why it matters from like a human thinking perspective.
That's the plan. That's the mission, really.
Yeah.
Help you understand what this new way of building is, see some concrete examples of what people are actually making money with, and then link it all back to those core human skills that, well, they aren't going anywhere. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that term that's been buzzing around, vibe coding. What does that actually mean?
Okay, so at its simplest, vibe coding really just describes an AI-assisted approach to building software.
And the core difference from, the way we used to do it, traditional coding.
It's mainly about using natural language prompts. Basically, you tell the AI what you want in English, and it generates the code, sometimes building whole parts of the application for you, often with very little, maybe even no traditional coding needed from your side.
You just sort of describe the vibe.
Exactly. You describe the outcome, the feature, whatever it is you want, and the AI does the heavy lifting. That translation from intent to code.
Andrej Karpathy had that great quote about it, didn't he?
Yeah, he described his workflow saying it felt like not really coding. I just see things, say things, run things, and copy-paste things, and it mostly works.
Which sounds incredibly freeing, actually.
It does. And remember, he also said way back in 2023 that the hottest new programming language is English.
Which sounded, well, pretty bold at the time.
Yeah.
But when you see what these tools can actually do...
You start to see his point, yeah.
And we should be clear, this isn't just like chatting with a standard LLM, right? It's more than getting a text response back.
No, definitely not. That's a key distinction the sources make. Many of these tools use what are called AI agents.
Okay, agents. Different how?
Unlike a basic LLM that just generates text, these agents can actually perform tasks autonomously. They can run commands in your environment, create files, make decisions. They act more like an assistant carrying out your instructions to reach a goal.
Ah, okay. So it's less like having a dictionary and more like having, I don't know, a very capable intern who just gets what you're asking for at a high level.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually, yeah. It sets up this kind of symbiotic relationship. The human you provides the direction, the creative vision, the judgment.
The is this actually good part.
Exactly. And the AI handles the mechanical stuff, writing the lines of code, setting up structures, doing the repetitive things that used to take hours and hours.
Right, so the focus shifts. It's less about the nitty-gritty, the technical precision of traditional engineering.
And much more towards accessibility, getting ideas out quickly, creative expression, rapid iteration. It lowers the barrier.
Which leads us perfectly into the tools themselves, the things actually doing the work here, the power of these AI prototyping tools.
Yeah, and there's been a real surge lately. We're seeing some really sophisticated tools pop up, things like Cursor, Replit Agent, V0, Bolt, Lovebolt, quite a few now.
And they seem to range from tools that enhance your existing code editor to like full-blown cloud development environments. What's the deal with those cloud ones, Replit, Bolt, V0?
Those cloud development environments are especially useful when you're building something a bit more complex, say a prototype with several features or specific design needs, or an app with multiple pages. They handle the back-end infrastructure for you, databases, and they let the AI make changes across lots of different files at once, which is crucial for anything beyond a really simple one-page thing.
So they can tackle bigger projects. What kind of stuff are we actually seeing them build? The sources mentioned some pretty impressive examples.
Yeah, you can apparently feed them a Figma design file and get a working app back.
Wow.
Or even give them a hand-drawn sketch and see a basic interface come to life.
Seriously?
A sketch, yeah. And one of the really compelling ones is taking a product requirements document, usually just a wall of text,
Right.
and turning that into an interactive, clickable prototype people can actually use. Plus, they're being used to spin up functional internal tools really quickly.
Okay, let's talk specifics. Based on the sources, what are some of these tools particularly good at? V0 caught my eye.
Right, VO gets mentioned for generating really nice-looking designs pretty much automatically. You give it a prompt, and it spits out responsive React components using popular systems like Tailwind and Shadesen UI. Stuff known for looking clean and modern.
So good for aesthetics out of the box.
Yeah.
What about Bolt?
Bolt seems highlighted more for flexibility when you're prototyping quickly, especially if you're starting with an existing design you want to match or build upon. The source mentioned using it to quickly mock up something like a basic CRM system.
Okay. And Replit. Sounds like it does a lot.
It really does seem like a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Replit is geared towards building full-stack applications. So the front-end client, the back-end server, the database, the whole 9 yards. It seems particularly strong for internal tools that need a proper back-end, like maybe a file converter or a job tracker. The sources mention examples like building an MP4 to GIF tool or something to resize images for Substack, often using Python on the back-end.
Cursor feels a bit different, more like an enhancement.
Yeah, exactly. Think of Cursor as your familiar VS Code editor, but supercharged with AI, often using powerful models like GPT-4. It integrates right into your existing code.
So what does it do?
It gives you things like chatting with your entire code base, ask it questions about any part of your project. It can suggest automatic fixes for errors, recommend relevant files. The idea is to give you sort of a senior developer experience to speed up the more traditional coding workflow.
Okay. And Lovable, that was another one mentioned.
Lovable was mentioned also in the context of building something like a basic CRM, but there was an interesting note about it. In one source, apparently, it lacked a built-in code editor.
Huh. So you can only prompt.
Seems like it. You rely purely on prompting to make changes or fix bugs, which kind of highlights a potential trade-off, right? Amazing ease of use to start, but maybe tricky if you hit a really complex bug that needs direct code intervention.
That makes sense. Okay, so we have these tools. Let's talk speed again. How fast are we really talking when we put vibe coding into practice?
Honestly, the speed is one of the most jaw-dropping parts. Sources talk about taking an idea, just an idea, and having a working prototype in minutes.
Not just a picture, but actual code that runs.
Exactly. Functional code. Apparently, you can build something usable in maybe 10 minutes, even if you've never coded before.
10 minutes. Yeah, that's wild. The tank game example you mentioned from the sources sounds like a perfect illustration of this.
It really shows the iterative power, doesn't it? You start with a simple prompt like, build a second tank game with an AI opponent,
Okay.
and then you just add layers, add collision detection between tanks. When a tank's health hits 0, play an explosion animation, improve the acceleration, make holding the space bar fire continuously, even adding things like power-ups. It's like directing step by step.
Yeah, like giving instructions. And the Bolt example, matching a specific design.
That one shows how you can get quite precise with prompting. You might start broad, build a prototype to match this design exactly, maybe upload a picture. But the key insight from the sources for refining it is you have to get hyper-specific. If you want to add, say, a price filter, you can't just say add a price filter. You need to describe where it goes, maybe what kind of component, a slider, input fields, and how it should actually filter the results shown. Details matter for refinement.
What if you don't have a design, if you're not a designer?
That's where tools like Vero, which we mentioned, can be great. They often default to using established design systems like Tailwind or Shadcene UI. So you can describe the layout and the pieces you need in plain English, and it builds something that looks decent and works on different screen sizes, even without design skills.
And adding completely new features, is that just as quick?
It can be astonishingly quick. There was an example of adding a mock AI email writer feature to an app. The prompt was basically, please implement a mock AI email writer, make it accessible from the left nav.
Yeah.
Took less than 5 minutes to get a basic testable version of that feature up and running.
Wow. Less than 5 minutes. The value there seems enormous.
Oh, huge value. Think about it. You can explore so many more ideas in the same amount of time.
Right.
You can get concepts to market way faster, cutting down those validation cycles. Months become weeks, maybe even days.
And getting actual working things in front of users early. That feedback must be way better than just showing static pictures.
Leagues better, yeah. Interactive feedback is invaluable.
It sounds almost too good to be true. But the sources do stress your input, the prompt, really matters, right?
Yeah.
Not all prompts work equally well.
Absolutely critical. A vague prompt like make a to-do app is just not helpful. It gives the AI almost nothing to work with.
So what makes a good prompt?
Details. Context. Be specific about the tech stack if you care. React, Tailwind, Node.js, whatever. List the core features you need, adding tasks, marking them complete, saving them. Mention the style you're going for. Maybe even describe a user scenario, how someone would actually use it.
Okay, makes sense. And the sources gave some specific tips for prompting effectively.
They did. For that initial generation phase, refer to existing tools people know, make it work like Notion's checklist. Specify your tech stack. Include user scenarios. Mention style or tone.
And for refining, when the first attempt isn't quite right.
Specificity is king. Point out exactly what's wrong. The modal doesn't close when I click outside of it. Explain the why if you can. This flow feels too complex, too many clicks. Ask for alternatives, and crucially, provide context. Paste the code snippet that's causing trouble, or describe exactly where in the app the problem is happening.
That Ripple at San Francisco Park's map project sounds like a great example of using these techniques iteratively.
Yeah, that's a fantastic case study. Going from just an idea to a fully deployed interactive web app, basically all through prompting. They used Replit Agent for the big initial build, and then the Replit Assistant for tweaking and fixing things.
So how did they kick it off?
Started with a really clear, detailed prompt for the agent. Define the goal. A minimalist map app for SF parks. Specified the tech. Leaflet.js for the maps. OpenStreetMap data. Listed the exact data types they wanted to show. Parks, natural areas, leisure spots. They even attached a simple visual mock-up.
Okay, so gave it a lot to work with, and the agent just set it all up.
Pretty much. The agent took that prompt, figured out a plan, generated an initial visual preview so they could see the direction, and then set up the whole development environment with all the needed libraries.
Then they added features.
Exactly. Like adding a dark mode. That was done through more prompts, talking to the assistant.
Was it always perfect first time?
Oh, definitely not. The dark mode example showed that.
Yeah.
It took a few rounds. The assistant might put the theme toggle in the wrong spot initially, or maybe create 2 toggles by mistake.
Right.
That's where the human guidance becomes critical. You have to point out the specific issue. Sometimes you even have to tell the assistant which file to edit because it might guess wrong about the code base structure. It really shows it's a partnership. The human role shifts. It doesn't disappear.
And this partnership, this vibe coding approach, it's not just for building little prototypes or internal tools, is it? The sources say people are building real income-generating projects this way.
That's the really exciting part, yeah, is letting people move from idea to actually having something on the market faster than ever before. For beginners especially, the advice is to start small, focus on manageable projects, get those quick wins, learn the process.
And there were specific criteria mentioned for what makes a good beginner project in this space.
Yeah, 4 key things they highlighted. First, beginner accessibility. Can you realistically build a basic version, an MVP, in less than, say, 30 days?
Okay.
Second, earning potential. Is there actual evidence that people pay for this kind of service or tool?
Right, market validation.
Third, AI integration. Does using AI actually give you a meaningful boost in efficiency? Is it really helping? And fourth, practical validation. Are there similar projects out there already succeeding? Real-world proof.
And what kind of earnings are we talking about? Is this realistic?
The insights seem pretty promising for simple projects. Average first-month earnings were cited somewhere between $200 and $1,200.
For a beginner project, not bad.
Not bad at all. The most successful ones seem to be tools, simple games, or specific utilities. The AI just dramatically lowers that barrier to entry. You can validate demand and potentially start earning in weeks instead of sinking months into building something the traditional way, only to find out nobody wants it.
Okay, let's get into some of those specific examples from the sources. Findasks.com sounded clever.
Findasks.com is smart. It uses AI to scan public online discussions, places like Reddit, Quora, Twitter, based on a business description you provide. It finds people asking questions or stating needs related to that business.
And how does it make money?
The potential is in identifying those leads and maybe fulfilling them directly, or selling premium insights based on the AI's analysis of what people are asking for.
Interesting. SecretNameGame.com sounds more like fun.
It does. Simple social game uses AI to generate funny or cool nicknames. Its success really hinges on that viral loop, making it super easy to share on social media.
And monetization.
Pretty standard app stuff. Balancing ads, offering in-app purchases, maybe for cosmetic things like special name packs or themes, possibly a subscription for an ad-free version. The source emphasized keeping it ethical, though avoid pay-to-win, keep it fun.
Right. SumedUp.ai tackles information overload.
Yeah, a practical tool. Uses AI's natural language processing to condense things like PDFs, articles, web links into summaries.
Useful. How does that monetize?
Subscription tiers, most likely. Different plans for individuals, maybe businesses. Potentially licensing it out or offering an API on a pay-per-use basis. The key there is that genuinely useful tools tend to have low churn rates, which is great for subscriptions.
Then there was text behind image, using visual AI tools.
Absolutely. People are using platforms like Canva's AI features or tools like Designs AI, Adobe Express, leveraging their AI to quickly create images with text overlays.
Like quote images.
Exactly. Quote generators, event posters, stylized social media graphics. These little micro tools can apparently bring in hundreds, maybe thousands a month, often using freemium models, ad revenue, or selling templates. It lowers the barrier to creating visual content. There was a quote about someone earning their first $1,000 in under 6 weeks with a tool like this.
Wow. Fitness tracker apps, it's a crowded market, but AI adds something new.
Yeah, the angle here is using AI for deep customization, often targeting niche audiences. Think about Fitbit Premium's personalized insights or the Sweat app's tailored workout plans. That AI personalization drives engagement and subscription revenue.
And it works.
Seems so. Fitbit Premium apparently saw a 35% drop in churn and a 20% bump in daily active users after adding those features. And apps like MyFitnessPal or Fitbod generate huge revenue. The AI lets you build and iterate on those personalized features much faster in your initial product.
AI bot generators sound like a direct application of this tech.
For sure. Platforms like ManyChat, ChatFuel, Landbot.io, often plugging into powerful models like GPT-4 or Claude, let people without coding skills build useful chatbots.
For what kinds of things?
Customer support, lead generation, automating sales processes, scheduling, lots of business applications. And it's approachable because these platforms have visual interfaces and templates. The results can be significant. One source mentioned a local lead bot lifting conversions by 40%. Niche bots for coaches, real estate agents, local services seem to be generating decent passive income.
Microsize for local businesses. What's that about?
This is about building small, specialized cloud tools tailored to the unique needs of local businesses, things they might not find off the shelf, like automated appointment reminders specifically for dentists, or a simple online store locator for a small retail chain, maybe custom invoicing.
And this is doable for small teams.
Yeah, often by a solo founder or a tiny team, frequently using no-code or minimal code tools enhanced by AI. You make money through subscriptions or customization fees by solving a very specific, often repetitive problem for a local business niche.
And the last one, viral utility sites.
These are those super simple single-purpose tools that just solve one specific pain point extremely well. Think remove.bg for taking backgrounds out of images, or TinyWow that has a bunch of quick file conversion tools.
Right, I've used those.
They attract millions of users because they're so useful and easy. They make money usually through ads or offering premium features. The strategy seems to be validate the idea really quickly, maybe on Product Hunt or Reddit, iterate fast based on feedback, and make it super easy to share.
It's genuinely impressive what people are building and actually monetizing with this accelerated approach.
Yeah.
But you hear pushback, right? Especially from more traditional software engineers.
Yeah.
Skepticism.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That skepticism is understandable. When you're generating code this fast, using prompts, concerns naturally come up. Is this code scalable? Is it maintainable in the long run? What about security? Does it meet robust engineering standards?
Valid questions. And the sources seem to agree that experienced developers are still absolutely vital in this new world.
Totally vital. But maybe their role shifts a bit. They're not essential because they're, resisting change. They're essential because they understand the complexities, the boundaries, the potential pitfalls.
They see the edge cases.
Exactly. Their experience lets them critically look at that AI-generated code and ask the hard questions. Does it really do what it needs to do? Is it secure? Is this going to be a tangled mess to fix later? That's where their intuition, built up over years, is invaluable. They can often just feel when a solution looks okay on the surface, but might be problematic underneath.
That's a perfect segue into that academic research source you mentioned, the one about intuition and rationality in software design. Feels very relevant here.
It really does, because the core idea of that research is that designing software isn't just a purely logical, step-by-step rational process. It's this uniquely human thing where both our intuition and our rational thinking are constantly interacting.
And how does the research define intuition here? It's not just a vague gut feeling, is it?
No, it's much more concrete than that. It's described as this immediate human apprehension, a direct grasp of something, often without conscious step-by-step reasoning. The source even used a German term Einfühlung, which translates roughly to an intellectual love or a direct felt understanding of things we experience.
So it's fundamental.
Yeah, the paper argues intuition isn't just for big aha moments. It underpins lots of everyday stuff. How we physically grasp an object, how we navigate a room, how we quickly recognize visual patterns. It's a basic way we interact with and understand the world.
Okay, not just some mysterious sixth sense.
Exactly, and the research makes a strong case that intuition is crucial, even in fields we think of as purely rational, like logic or math. Think about doing a proof. It relies on intuitively understanding what the starting points mean, intuitively grasping the connections between steps, even intuitively knowing what counts as a proof in the first place.
The example of the apples made that clear.
Right. To understand 2 + 2 = 4 applied to putting apples in a basket, you need an intuitive grasp of concepts like emptiness, seeing the apples, connecting the sight to numbers, understanding why multiplication or addition is relevant there. Even formal logic depends on intuitively grasping the mental ideas and how they map onto reality.
And how does this intuitive grasp relate to software correctness?
This is really interesting. Users don't just want software that technically matches some written specification sheet. They want software that works in a way that feels right, that matches their intuitive expectation of how it should behave in the real world.
So the specs aren't the whole story.
Exactly. A programmer writes specifications, and the program is technically correct if it meets them. But whether those specifications actually capture what the user intuitively needs and expects, that link back to the real world is often ascertained intuitively. Intuition is needed all through the process, understanding needs, designing solutions, and assessing if the final thing feels right and reliable. The paper used the analogy of a car being in working order. It's an intuitive judgment, not just checking boxes.
And even just reading code or reading requirements involves intuition.
The research argues against seeing reading text as just cold analysis, syntax here, semantics there. It suggests it's more like one single intuitive action. You grasp the structure and the meaning together. You intuitively parse the code or the user story.
Okay, so we've got intuition this fast, maybe subconscious understanding and rationality, the slow, deliberate, logical thinking. How do software designers actually use these together in practice?
Well, the research confirms that experienced designers use both, often blending them. Rationality, that logical step-by-step approach, tends to lead to higher quality results, better designs, requirements more fully met, but it usually takes more time and effort.
And intuition.
Intuition is faster. It's particularly good for the creative side, generating lots of different design options quickly or seeing potential solutions early on.
And the balance between them can shift.
Definitely. Things like the designer's own experience, how well they know the problem area, how complex the project is, even how much time they have in a sprint. All these factors influence whether they lean more on intuition or rationality for a specific decision.
And the research suggests that the best outcomes happen when you combine them.
Strongly suggests that, yes. Effective software design seems to benefit most from environments that actually help designers combine intuition and rationality. The paper notes that traditional software engineering often focuses heavily on the rational side, sometimes neglecting the value of intuition.
Which brings us right back around to vibe coding. How does this AI-driven approach fit into that whole dynamic?
It's fascinating to think about, because vibe coding seems to fundamentally alter that balance. It basically automates a massive chunk of the rational work, the effort-intensive part of translating an idea into logically structured code, dealing with syntax, managing files.
So by taking over the rational execution part, does it actually put more emphasis on the human's intuitive skills?
I think that's a really key insight. It seems like it does. The human is still the source of the initial idea, right? That often comes from an intuitive understanding of a need or a problem.
Okay.
They're framing the prompt, which itself requires an intuitive feel for how to best communicate the desired outcome to the AI. And maybe most importantly, they're the ones evaluating the AI's output. That experienced developers' spidey sense, looking at generated code and knowing if it feels right, if it seems stable, if it smells like future trouble, that's deeply intuitive judgment.
So for experienced developers, it becomes more about steering, guiding, and judging the AI's rational work using their built-up intuition.
Precisely. And think about beginners. Vibe coding lowers the barrier dramatically because they can lean on their intuitive understanding of the problem they want to solve without first having to master all the rational complexities of syntax and algorithms. The AI handles a lot of that rational structure.
They still need to learn.
Oh, absolutely. To get really good, they'll still need to develop both sides. They need the rational skill of crafting effective prompts and learning how to refine the AI's output, and they need to build through experience, that intuition for evaluating what the AI produces, knowing when it's good, when it's close, and when it's just wrong.
So it's a shift in where human skills are applied, but intuition and judgment remain central, maybe even become more central. And this isn't just theory anymore, is it? It's showing up in actual industry adoption.
The trend seems to be picking up steam incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley was reportedly buzzing about vibe coding as a major thing back in February 2025. And that Y Combinator report for March 2025 was pretty stunning. A quarter, 25% of the companies in their winter 2025 batch had code bases that were 95% AI generated.
95%. That's a massive indicator that this is becoming a go-to approach, especially for new startups.
It really shows how quickly new ventures are embracing this. And you see examples like Kevin Roos building software for one, these little custom AI tools just for his own personal needs. It highlights how personalized and accessible software creation is becoming.
What are the main drivers for startups adopting this so quickly? What are the big benefits?
Speed is number one, hands down. Developing and launching new AI-powered apps way faster, that cuts down the time to market massively.
Months and weeks, like you said.
Maybe even days for simple MVPs.
Yeah.
And that speed directly reduces risk. You can test more ideas, try different angles, pivot based on real feedback much more easily because you haven't invested huge amounts of traditional dev time down one path.
Makes sense. And with tools handling the back-end setup too, the accessibility must be huge.
Absolutely enormous. It drastically lowers the technical bar, not just for writing code, but for actually deploying and managing a live application. This opens the door for people whose main strength isn't coding or server management. They can focus on the problem they're solving, the idea they want to bring to life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive then, we've kind of gone on a journey. We started by defining vibe coding, looked at these powerful AI tools enabling super fast development, saw examples of real projects, even monetized ones.
And then we connected that tech back to how humans actually think and create that interplay of intuition and rationality, seeing how AI might be shifting the balance there.
Yeah, the key takeaway feels pretty clear. Vibe coding isn't just some passing fad. It's genuinely changing how software gets built. It's lowering barriers, speeding things up, shifting the process.
But importantly, it's not making the human developer obsolete. If anything, it seems to elevate the importance of those uniquely human skills. Intuition, judgment, creativity, framing the problem well.
It's less about being the typist writing every single line.
And maybe more about being the conductor, guiding this incredibly powerful AI orchestra.
That's a fantastic way to put it. Which leaves us with a pretty big thought to chew on, doesn't it? If AI can handle so much of the rational heavy lifting, the translation of ideas into code, how might this new partnership change not just how we build things, but maybe even change what kind of problems we can imagine solving with software in the first place?
Right. Does it free up our intuition to tackle different kinds of challenges?
Exactly. What does this new relationship mean for developing your own intuitive grasp of what software could do? And how does mastering that interaction, your intuition guiding the AI's rational power, open up completely new avenues for you, the learner, to bring your own unique blend of ideas and insights into the world?
It certainly feels like the boundaries of what's possible are expanding very, very quickly.
Definitely something to think about as you explore this exciting space further.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for exploring with us. If you learned something new or sparked an idea, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Got a topic you want Nova and Echo to break down next? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, keep prompting, keep building, and keep doing it with AI.